What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Coach and registered dietitian Andres in here. Today we're going to be covering a really interesting concept, which is actually calorie density. But let me show you a couple of things here real quick. So I actually weighted this morning 2 different kinds of foods, and I wanted to prove obviously how both of them have the exact same amount of calories. In today's video, I'm going to explain you why that is in this entire concept of calorie density. Let's get started with a few different things that I wanted to cover here today. This is going to be a great topic, which is going to be calorie density. And then not many people actually talk about this. If you've ever been to McDonald's, if you get a burger, let's just say like this is like a McDonald's burger, right? And if you get it, let's say it's like whatever, the size or whatever it may be the case. I think a Big Mac is closer to 500 calories. Now, if you were taking those same 500 calories and you were trying to make a salad of it, the salad bowl, or like the salad that you're actually making, would be humongous, would be a lot bigger. So if I ask you, if you had a burger and you had the salad, in an ideal world that both of them tasted exactly the same, which one would make you feel fuller, the burger or the salad? I think you know the answer to that would be the salad, because you're feeling fuller. There's this concept of nutrition that is known as calorie density, which is essentially how much of a specific volume a typical food occupies. Because here's something that I want you to remember. Your stomach is not necessarily a calorie counter, it's a volume counter. It's like a bag. When you put things into a bag and it gets filled up to a certain extent or to a certain level, that bag actually starts to feel fuller. So one of the things about it is, like, whenever you try to select foods that are going to make or add more volume into your diet, you're going to feel fuller, and therefore you're actually not going to feel as hungry, or your satiety is going to be increased. There's actually ways that you can calculate this, and I'm going to show you a couple examples of how we actually do this on a daily basis. Now, it's a simple equation. We call it calorie density, or we're going to call it CD. You take, for example, the calories of a specific food, and then you divide it by its own actual weight. And I was putting it on a actual food scale. If I take, for example, 100 calories of broccoli, and I put it on here also, and I weigh those 100 calories of broccoli, it's going to definitely show me that it has a low calorie density value, which means that this is something that's going to fill me a lot quicker. So if the amount of calories is low compared to its weight, it's definitely going to make me feel full a lot quicker. So essentially, if something weighs a lot, but it actually has a low amount of calories, typically it's going to make me feel fuller quickly. If in the opposite hand, you actually have something that takes a lot of calories and doesn't really weigh a whole ton, you're gonna have what we call a high CD, or a high calorie density. Essentially, you need more of that specific food to actually feel fuller. As another example, you would take a slice of pizza. The size of pizza is going to have maybe like 300 calories, but the weight is not going to necessarily be as high. It's actually going to be low. So whenever you have a higher calorie density food, then essentially you're going to need more of that specific food to feel satisfied or to feel fuller. When you learn and understand these concepts as you go through your entire day, you actually make better decisions, because of the fact that you want to make sure that you're not feeling hungry. Because there's nothing worse when you're trying to quote unquote diet to feel hungry because you feel deprived. So that's something that is important. Here's the question. What determines the caloric density of a specific food? Well, there's just only one thing. Take a guess, and I'll put it on here. What do you think determines the density of a specific food? One ingredient, which is water. And here I have, I'm gonna show you here up close so you can kind of see it. So these are basically raisins, right? From this brand, obviously from Publix. So if you look at the nutrition facts of this, you're going to notice that 28 grams, which is the amount weighed, is going to have about 100 calories and 23 grams of carbohydrates. This is the example for these raisins. So what I decided to do, I wish that I would have had grapes, but I didn't have grapes, because technically raisins are dried grapes, right? One of the things that they remove from this specific food is the water content of it. I'm not saying that raisins are bad, but I'm going to give you some really specific examples. So here, 100 calories and 23 grams of carbohydrates. The weight of this is about 28 grams, or about 1 ounce, okay? Keep that in mind. 100 calories, 23 grams of carbohydrates. I'm gonna show you what 100 calories and 23 grams of carbohydrates look at different kinds of food. Strawberries. This has exactly 23 to 24 grams of carbohydrates compared to this right here. This has a low calorie density, so essentially has a lot more volume, a lot more water. It's more filling and has more satiety value compared to your raisins. That is obviously a big difference. If you had this full entire thing of strawberries and you had this full thing of raisins, what would make you feel fuller? Yet they're both equal in calories. They're both equal in amount of carbohydrates that they contain, because obviously this is a carbohydrate food, so this is a fruit. Now this weighs 28 grams. This weighs 300 grams. So again, 300 grams here and then about 100 calories here. Versus the raisins, which are going to be 28 grams here and then 100 calories here. So you see the difference that exists between these two things. This is obviously what makes a big difference. So again, 100 calories worth of this and 100 calories worth of this. Look at the difference that it makes. So how can you apply this to your day-to-day basis? How can you apply this to like your breakfast, lunch, and dinner? I actually compiled a few lists, and I have my phone in here as a cheat sheet to actually walk you through a few different ideas on things that you can actually do and replace on a daily basis to decrease the calorie density of your food, and then it starts to increase the amount of volume. As an example, let's say your breakfast options. I'm not against like peanut butter, but then if you, for example, choose like a sugar-free jam, but you're still having same equals amount of volume in your toast. So for example, if you add 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, which is great, then obviously you're adding a lot of calorie density into the food specifically. Now, if you added, for example, sugar-free jam, you're adding about the same amount of volume, yet you're actually adding a lot less calories into that. So that's an example. Another example would be, for example, doing, instead of like a fried egg, you actually could do like a hard-boiled egg, which are actually gonna be more filling than anything else. Other things that you can do, for example, is going to be switching a granola, and instead of using granola, using oatmeal. Because of the fact that oatmeal actually retains more water, it has more volume, yet actually lower calories. When you're thinking about, for example, lunches or dinners and stuff like that, think about like a tuna salad or using actual like canned tuna. If you use tuna that comes canned, or like the canned tuna that comes in oil, has a lot more caloric density compared to, for example, a tuna that comes in water. So those are simple kind of like changes that you can make. If you, for example, replace 1 cup of traditional pasta by an actual bean pasta, has a lot more volume or has a lot less calorie density. Or for example, even if you wanted to cut down more on the amount of carbohydrates that you're consuming, but you still want to feel satisfied, you can replace a cup of pasta with a cup of spaghetti squash. You can weigh the same amounts, yet you're going to find significant changes in the amount of carbohydrates and calories that both of them have. Other options of this would actually be serving your chicken with a baked potato instead of fries. Because of the fries, you're actually frying them, you're accumulating more calorie density, you're adding more calories into the specific amount of volume versus, for example, something that you're baking. Simple things like that. And obviously they give you the example of using fruit versus, for example, dried fruit. Examples like that and little swaps and stuff like that is all that it takes for you to actually start making changes into your nutrition in order for you to actually feel fuller for longer and actually feel more satisfied. Simple tricks like that, it's just a way that you can start to obviously fill up your stomach with volume instead of calories, and it's a good way for you to be able to control satiety, which at the end of the day is what actually prompts you to eat more in the first place. Some of you guys are watching this and you're trying to like drop body fat or drop weight. You got to this point because you obviously ate more than what your body required, and that happened because you were triggered to do so. Most foods that are hyper palatable, I've talked about this in the past, are foods that have very high calorie density. They add a ton of calories into very small spaces, and because of that reason you tend to overeat more of them. So there's no secrets behind this. This is just simply trying to make swaps and making smaller changes into your day to help you control how you feel and how your hunger is maintained. That is crazy, right? I mean, seriously, like a lot of times that we can just simply make smaller swaps in our daily nutrition lives, in the stuff that we eat on a daily basis, and just something as simple as that can magically or completely change how we feel as far as like how our body feels on a daily basis in terms of like feeling fuller, and we're going to not be as inclined to overeat as much as we typically do. Just making those smaller changes. So again, just as a quick takeaway, make sure that you're choosing or selecting foods that are going to have a low calorie density, that are going to be more filling, they're gonna make you feel fuller longer. As usual, again, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and if you have any questions, drop them down in the comments and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Thank you guys again for watching on our YouTube channel. See you guys in the next one.